Chalupa is a racist webtoon reactor who slanders comic creators for money and doubles down when being called out. Of course he called me a commentary channel. He's upset that I mentioned him being a conservative Donald Trump supporter as a Mexican American, which was true, so he's just incapable of respecting anyone. To understand the full context of what he was called out for, watch my original video on him. This is the response to his response to my video. If I sound pissed off at any point in this video, it's because Chalupa's fans have been harassing me for knowing the definition of SA and consent, as well as accusing me of spreading misinformation because they're deaf and blind, so I apologize in advance to my regular viewers. You know someone's not sincere when they include apologies to his victims in the same video as him targeting a channel 100th times his size. I would say he's damaging his reputation, but him and his fans don't care about YouTube courtesy. He doesn't prove that I was being hypocritical or that I was overreaching in this video, so he's trying to discredit me just by implying that I'm not trustworthy in his title. And it works. What a miracle!
This video is being made in response to call out the misinformation and mental gymnastics used in the video to demonize and vilify me.
Misinformation and mental gymnastics to demonize and vilify. I've heard of his infamous self-victimizing apology video he uploaded a few years ago, but I didn't think I'd get to see one myself. I called you racist because you said the N-word as a Mexican American while stating that you hate black people and Asians. I called you toxic because you sounded misogynistic, homophobic, fatphobic, and made sexual jokes on children. I said I cannot respect you because you didn't delete specific videos slandering innocent creators and promoted one who sent porn to minors. What part of that is misinformation? If you did not do those things, who were we watching? Chalupa apologizes for saying the N-word, but he does not address the other glaring issue. Sure, you can say you used the N-word because it was normalized in 2023, even though you knew what it was, you decided to follow social norms, but why did you not address the fact that you said you hate black people and Asians? The thing that completely destroys your whole "I used it because it's normalized in Mexican culture" excuse? You can say you used the N-word without racist intentions, but what excuse do you have for saying that you hate black people?
You assume that us not being able to pronounce names, sometimes changing their names, and poking fun at it makes us racist.
I never said this. I know your patterns of leaving out context to frame people, so do not try that with me. Again, he said that he hates Asians. It is not just one thing that makes him racist, so there is no point in him claiming that changing foreign names or making fun of them in itself is not being racist.
In reality, name changes happen all the time to be more familiar with the language it's translating to. For example, Lookism changes their main character's name from Park Young-seok to Daniel Park. Pokemon changes their main character's name from Satoshi to Ash Ketchum. But wait, hold on, we poke fun at the names, so that makes us racist, right?
He has severe comprehension issues if he thinks the official creators of these works changing character names when translating and publishing to a different country is the same as him changing names in his read-throughs because he doesn't want to pronounce Korean. Yeah, Lookism changed their names officially when publishing on the English platform, so you read their names properly, but those other webtoons chose not to change their names officially during translation, so why aren't you reading them properly? Why are you not respecting the language? And don't say it's because you don't know how to pronounce Korean while also changing names that you do know how to pronounce.
You also included this clip of me mispronouncing a name. Hyundo to kiss Chairin back?
Did you mean mispronouncing or pronouncing? Because this is you pronouncing. I completely forgot you don't know how to read because I was so focused on your rage bait.
You conveniently left out the part of me admitting I didn't know how to pronounce it. Chairin back? I told you I would freaking butcher that.
You saying you don't know how to pronounce it doesn't disprove that you can pronounce but don't want to, so I don't know what you're trying to prove here. Those clips were clearly shown as the rare times you were pronouncing Korean names instead of changing and making fun of them, and this was for your fans who defend you by saying you don't want to butcher the names.
Laura sounding like male genitalia in Hindi, or Pippa in Italian sounding like wanking. It is ridiculous you reached this conclusion based on us changing and poking fun at names, but assuming is your thing, so.
Chalupa explains extensively how changing and mispronouncing names purposefully in itself is not being racist because he does not have an excuse for saying that he hates black people and Asians. Actions reflect beliefs, and Chalupa has not given me a reason to separate them. 1. Racism is discrimination. In order for Chalupa to prove that he's not discriminating, he needs to prove that he treated every language equally, which requires him to show clips of him changing and mispronouncing names names from other countries a similar amount of times, but he does not do that, therefore he does not prove that what he did wasn't racist. It's tricky for him to prove that he's not discriminating because he reads a lot of Korean webtoons specifically. Some people interpret this in itself as being racist due to the implication of him targeting these works while not respecting the language. There are too many clips of him purposely changing or making fun of Korean names, but basically no clip of him doing that to other names. At least, I couldn't find any, and a mere few examples that he doesn't show are not enough for him to prove that he's not racist. 2. He's trying to shift the focus away from the actual racism of him saying he hates black people and Asians to make people forget about it, and by people I mean the people who watched my video. 3. He's trying to hide the fact that he said he hates black people and Asians. Most people wouldn't watch both his and my video. People who only watched his video wouldn't even know that he hates black people and Asians, and that it was the evidence I presented when I said, surely you'll think this is racist. The thing is, Chalupa could have just said it was a joke and his brain-dead fans would have still forgiven him because he was young or he was a teenager, despite the fact that he was an adult in 2023. So Chalupa not addressing this message entirely is an interesting choice. Just in case it wasn't clear, you do not have the right to forgive Chalupa for saying the N-word if you're not African American, so I'm reasonably assuming that the hundreds of people saying it was 3 years ago are all African American. Regarding what Chalupa did to Willer Gray that almost resulted in Willer committing suicide, there are too many delusional Chalupa fans defending Chalupa, saying that the scene he framed as SA in Willer's comic is actually SA, so I need to address this first. They went from Billy is essaying Jeff to Jeff is essaying Billy when I proved the former to be false, but if you do not understand the legal definition of SA, then do not use it to accuse someone. If you were deaf, I will point out the fact that I stated they were both drunk. I'm pretty sure this clip was even in Chalupa's video. If you had eyes, you would have seen that both Billy and Jeffrey were intoxicated. If you do not have eyes, I will point out the blush and the literal glass of alcohol in Jeffrey's hand. Billy and Jeffrey were both drunk and no one was incapacitated. One of them not remembering what happened the next day does not constitute SA. So stop grasping at straws for your irrational witch hunt. The amount of brain damage I suffered from people who think that sexual assault is defined by what happens after the assault and not during the assault. This is all that Chalupa showed you of the scene in question in his first video slandering Willer. 2 panels of Billy. What part of it is SA? How credible is Chalupa that you believe him over real evidence? Chalupa seems to have this incessant need to slander people, so I'm going to bring this second thing up. To frame me as someone who doesn't understand how sexual activities work, he claims that I said biting is not being sexual. His friend Cheesy thinks the same and implies it's the reason that Chalupa slanders Willer again. You would believe Chalupa if you can look past the fact that I literally did say they were being sexual. He does this all throughout his response, claims I said things I did not, and builds his arguments off of them. But his fans are deaf. That's why I'm showing my script, so that they can still read. Hopefully one of their illnesses recover in time for them to see the truth. Chalupa doesn't even apologize for directly slandering Willer. If you watched my video, you'd know that Chalupa straight up blurred a panel that is completely safe for YouTube to frame it as SA and called it a crime, which he doesn't address in his response. Why did you blur a panel safe for YouTube?
The next thing I want to bring up is the BL Jeff the Killer webtoon and how the creator was harassed after I made my video.
Chalupa spread lies about the original Jeff the Killer, claiming that Jeff and Billy had a huge age gap to imply pedophilia, and continued to slander Willer in a stream just recently. But Chalupa does not address those actions, and instead apologizes for the harassment Willer suffered and says that he would not have made the video if he knew that Willer was a victim of SA, as if his actions would have been fine if Willer wasn't a victim of SA.
I deeply apologize to Willer Gray for any harassment I inadvertently sent your way. I did not know you had past trauma regarding being sexually assaulted, and I would have thought twice before making the video if I did.
Chalupa doesn't think that framing and slandering in itself is wrong, even though it's illegal.
I tried to contact you to see if you wanted me to remove it, private it, or anything, but I can only assume the harassment you got forced you to make it difficult to contact you.
Why are you acting like you're not indirectly speaking to Willer through a middleman? I can't show Chalupa's messages due to a privacy agreement. He has already been told that he should have done proper research, confirm Billy's age, or speak with the artist before suggesting the pair was pedophilic. He has been told that Jeff was an adult at the start of the original story before the flashback. He has been told that during the flashback to when they were kids, Randy, who is only 1 year younger than Jeff, is also referred to as a kid, which is why Willer gave Jeffrey and Billy a 2-year age gap. This message is referring to people saying that Willer aged up Billy. Irrational people like to think that aging up characters in stories where kids begin as kids and end as kids is the same as aging up characters in stories where kids grow up to be adults. This latter example should not be considered aging up. It's logical for Billy to grow if Jeff does. Explain to me how Jeff grows and Billy, for some strange reason, stays as a kid forever, eternally stuck on his birthday party where he was 6 according to you. Billy wasn't 6, by the way, you'd know if you watched my video. Chalupa was also told that whatever he thinks is SA is not SA. He should have apologized for saying there was SA and implying pedophilia in Willer's comic because there was no SA and pedophilia, despite what Chalupa personally believes.
The fact that Billy was the one advancing is irrelevant. You have a responsibility to disengage with the drunk person.
You said that Billy took advantage of Jeffrey, which you deliberately cut out of my video before claiming its irrelevancy. You responded to a comment implying a huge age gap between Jeff and Billy, and since you chose to be so malicious, I'll read your own comment for you. You said, not only did they ship him with Jeff, but they basically made Jeff take advantage of him. Blackout drunk people can't give consent. I was proving you wrong, so of course it was relevant that I prove the fact that Jeffrey did not take advantage of Billy. What part of this panel was blackout drunk to you? Because even though you never showed this panel to your audience, I know you saw it.
Their mental faculties are severely dampened and cannot consent. All you could have and should have done was Jeff noticing these advances and immediately stopping it, then telling Billy about these advances. Even if Billy gets drunk very easily, it doesn't matter. His mental faculties aren't working properly and he shouldn't be placed in a sexual situation that he cannot legally give consent to.
Are you fucking serious right now? You created your own definition of SA to frame Willer again? Blurring out a panel didn't work after I called you out, so you created another lie? I have defended you in my own DMs from people claiming that you're homophobic for only framing BL webtoons because 2 times is not enough to form a causation, but I cannot give you the benefit of the doubt for anything at this point. You lied about the legal definition of consent to frame him again without showing any evidence, and your audience believes you. You have no works cited links and show no evidence in a video where you claim to know the law while responding to defamation accusations, and it's not a red flag to people. Are you guys insane? The mental capacity that Chalupa speaks of in legal consent is not full capacity, but sufficient capacity. Being drunk does not mean you cannot consent. I know that YouTube videos are free, but can we just raise the bar a little bit? How low are your standards to not want to see the legal definition of a word when it's being mentioned? The definition of consent is not what you guys believe to be the definition of consent. You cannot go around harassing people just because you don't know the definition of consent. Again, when both parties are drunk, the legal question is not whether both people were drinking, but whether one person was incapacitated. Drunk and incapacitated are not the same thing. Someone who has had several drinks, or even noticeably drunk, can still possess the mental capacity to agree to sexual activity.
But Overthrow also mentions how Billy was probably only a year or 2 younger in the original creepypasta.
I literally never said that, so stop lying. I said that Billy's age is never mentioned in the original story, which is true, and that a kid 1 year younger than Jeff is still referred to as a kid, which is also true, and that Willer gave them a 2-year age gap in his story because Billy was implied to be younger than Jeff in the original story, which is obviously also true. Chalupa mentions the wording of some kid or some dumb kid to suggest that Billy was much younger than Jeff.
If you go to the creepypasta, Jeff mentions how he doesn't want to go to the kids' party because he's not some dumb kid. They're kids to him.
But this wording, some kid, is also used for the skateboard kid. Jeff says, hey, what the hell kid? So Jeff perceives this kid as a kid, so you'd think this kid is much younger than Jeff, but no, he is about 12, 1 year younger than Jeff. So Jeff perceives someone who is only 1 year younger than him as a kid.
Later in the creepypasta, they mention the general age of the kids at the party.
The general age of the kids at the party was never mentioned in the original story. Stop lying. Chalupa uses the way that this other kid talks and the reference to Toys R Us to say that these kids are way too young for Jeff, so Billy must also be too young for Jeff. But it's not like 8-year-olds only play with 8-year-olds and 5-year-olds only play with 5-year-olds. It's common for kids to play with each other regardless of age. It's also common for kids to act like they're too old for something, even if they were into it just a year ago, because they think they're so cool and grown up now. now. Toys R Us sells the most toy guns for 5 to 12-year-olds. This clearly young kid desperately wanted to play with Jeff, looking at him with a puppy dog face saying please. In comparison, when Billy is introduced to his neighbor Jeff, Billy just says hi normally and goes back to play by himself. He doesn't want to play with Jeff. He pays no attention to him. This aloofness and the fact that he speaks and acts normally implies that Billy is older than this young kid who wants to play with Jeff so bad. You can have your own opinion on how old Billy sounds when he says hi, but when an age of a character is not given, it is unacceptable to lie to frame someone and double down instead of apologizing.
The one that falls in love with Jeff is canonically 7 or 8 years younger than Jeff in the actual creepypasta.
Chalupa does not address this in his response. He should have apologized and said he did not read the original story before claiming he did, or that he didn't remember the original story before spreading lies about it. Whatever the situation was, he should have apologized, but he doesn't.
They also defend it by saying that he's aged up. They're both the same age in Willer's story, so it's not pedophilic.
I never said Billy was aged up, what the fuck? I also never said they were the same age in Willer's story because they're not. Is he serious right now? I said Willer gave them a 2-year age gap. The original Jeff the Killer story starts when Jeff is an adult, and Willer's Jeff Woods the Killer comic also starts when Jeff is an adult. Both stories feature Jeff as a kid in a flashback. If Jeff grew in the original story, it means Billy did too. Why is it considered aging up when there's nothing in the story that suggests a fantastical element of everyone but Jeff being immortal, stuck in the same age ever since he killed someone? Billy and Jeff in the original creepypasta are in the exact same story. If Jeff died as a child or the story ended when Jeff was a child, I would get Chalupa's logic, but in this story, people canonically grew and Billy never died. Chalupa is lying to fit his narrative and you're all pretending like I said everything I didn't. You don't even have the excuse of misinterpreting my words because you've specifically been told that it's not aging up, and you know I didn't say Billy was aged up, but you continuously use the words that I never said to support your own argument.
I view the story weird for using Billy, who was only mentioned as being much younger than Jeff, only mentioned as being a young kid, in a sexual manner to ship him.
Pull up the evidence instead of bullshitting lies, you psychopath. The story did not state Billy to be much younger than Jeff or mention Billy being a young kid.
Now, I do understand to an extent where they come from, that aging them up will make it not weird since they're adults in their depictions.
No one said this, literally no one. You've specifically been told it's not aging up, and you know I didn't say this because you don't show a clip of me saying it, but you lied again to fit your narrative, and everyone believes you. The most revolting part about all of this is that you keep using the words I spoke to defend Willer from you against him, harming him again, and I don't know if Willer fully understands what you did because of the language barrier, so he might have lost hope after seeing your video.
But I personally find it weird when characters are aged up to be used in sexual situations. Yes, in the original creepypasta, Jeff was mentioned as an adult, but Billy never was. I don't agree with it at all, and I still think it's pretty weird.
Why would you even criticize the comic saying it's weird in a video where you're supposed to apologize for the lies you spread that caused everyone to think that Willer is some kind of pedophile who likes SA? Your fans have harassed him for months and he almost committed suicide. They're still harassing him now. We know what you're implying when you say weird. You were specifically asked not to label him as weird before you uploaded your response saying what he did was weird. Yeah, you obviously don't have to do what people tell you to do, but if you were capable of feeling sympathy, you would not have insulted his comic after you apologized for the harassment he suffered ever since you slandered him.
I don't think it makes Willer or his work pedophilic, nor does he support SA. He wasn't trying to imply that with his comic. He himself went through sexual assault and grooming and would never try to intentionally glorify it.
He doesn't support SA. He wasn't trying to imply that with his comic. He himself went through SA and he would never try to intentionally glorify it. So it's still SA, that's what you're implying. You're implying that he glorified SA but that it wasn't intentional? Why can't you just say it wasn't SA? He didn't draw SA, so why can't you just apologize for saying that this panel you blurred for no reason was a crime? Why can't you apologize for saying that the panel you blurred for no reason was sexual assault? You were told that it wasn't SA, so you don't even have the excuse of being dumb. It was explained to you and you still ignored it and posted this video, which is incredibly malicious. You accused him 3 times in one video. Why do you have to continue framing him after I proved you wrong? Why do you imply that it's still SA when it's not? You cannot just say something is a crime because you think it's a crime. That's not how this works. works. It doesn't matter if it's an opinion. The First Amendment does not protect all free speech. Do you not understand that? You implied false statements of fact that harmed Willer's reputation. A protected opinion is me calling you the psychopath that you are. No one can prove if that's true or false. It is an objective fact that what Willer did is not pedophilic and that he did not create SA. But you implied pedophilia in his comic and said that he created SA multiple times, which ruined his reputation over and over again. You cannot say these types of opinions, especially when you're a public figure. It doesn't matter if it was in a video, comment, or a passing moment in a stream. If your opinion is objectively false and it harmed someone's reputation, you are legally held accountable. You can't make a statement, an opinion, merely by prefacing it with "in my opinion." The courts do not give protection to false factual connotations disguised as opinions. If the statement contains specific details, it might be treated as an assertion of fact. Statements alleged to be opinions might contain or imply untrue statements of fact for which you may be entitled to recover damages. Do you want to ruin your own life? I'm genuinely asking because it seems like you want a few legal cases on your hands as someone who said he needed money. Clearly you have money because you want to give it away in court. Slander is not the only thing Willer can sue you for. You convinced people that a victim of SA glorifies SA. Do you understand that? The emotional and mental trauma that you directly inflicted on someone who did nothing wrong to you is incomparable to the subjective issue you have with his comic. I cannot imagine the monetary compensation that you would be required to pay. I will bring up this article one last time for the brain-dead Chalupa fans. Is it sexual assault if both parties are drunk? The legal question is not whether both people were drinking, but whether one person was incapacitated. Incapacitated means unable to act, made incapable, or non-functional. Did any of you see Billy or Jeffrey passed out drunk or unable to comprehend what the other character was saying? Sexual assault is not defined by what happens after the assault, but what happens during the assault. It does not matter whether or not Billy remembers what happened the next day, because you can still consent when you're drunk. This is what Chalupa showed you. 2 panels of Billy, one of Billy drunk during the sexual activity and one of Billy not remembering what happened. Why did you guys say this was SA? Please explain to me, because your mob mentality is so dystopian. Even in his response, Chalupa showed no evidence of it being SA while bringing up legal consent, and you guys are still harassing Willer and now me just because I knew the definition of SA and consent. I guess I failed to realize how dumb people were in my last video to even think to include what consent and sexual assault means. I just reasonably assumed that people wouldn't use terms they don't know, especially to label and associate someone with these words before harassing them. I thought they believed Chalupa because he didn't show evidence, not because they didn't know what sexual assault meant. Chalupa used some of my clips in his video, random clips of me clearly not saying what he claimed, but people don't care and believe him. Is this why Chalupa doesn't have money? Because he spent it on bots? I'm genuinely asking. I'm not claiming he did. I'm genuinely asking because I refuse to believe that 11,000 people don't know the definition of SA and consent. And then there's the issue of Chalupa including Willer's comic in the same video as his harasser's comic. Chalupa should have known that Lexit was harassing Willer because it's written on episode 9 of Willer's comic and Chalupa reads 10 episodes.
I didn't know you had past traumatic experiences with Lexit, and I apologize for putting your work right next to the work of a terrible person that you went through traumatic experiences with. In my original video, I said that Lexit's video was slightly less bad than yours, not to try and platform Lexit, but just trying to compare the two comics, trying to separate the art from the artist.
He downplays what he did continuously by claiming that he said Lexit's webtoon is only slightly better than Willer's without presenting a clip of him doing so, but I'll play a clip from my video.
Oh boy, I did not walk into this webtoon thinking Jeff's disorders would be outdone, yet here we are. Brother, I swear if the rest of the episodes are like this, I'm gonna take back Jeff's disorders in a heartbeat! Again, guys, this webtoon has actually surprised me in how horrid it was. There's a lot of text in this. And as for the story, brother, the original story was hot garbage itself. So they add their own Wattpad fanfiction spin on it and managed to make it worse! You've got to be a special writer in a bad way to make a poorly written mess like Jeff the Killer worse. And if the writer's capable of that, I do not want to see what they can write on their own. No, I mean it. You guys wanted Jeff's disorders? Screw it. If you guys want to see the previous entries, there's a playlist. We're switching mid-video.
Does he think people will believe him because he deleted that video so no one can look on his channel? It's still on my channel, so why is he straight up lying about this? His own fans wouldn't agree with this. He made Willer's comic out to be so much worse than Lexit's, and all the evidence is in my video. But oh wait, people do believe Chalupa. Were you Jesus in your past life? I said Chalupa was platforming Lexit because he created 5 videos featuring her comic despite knowing she sent porn to minors, which are collectively millions of views, but this is what he says about it.
My intention was never to platform Lexit, and I apologize if that video did.
No one said that you reading Lexit's webtoon once was platforming her. You made a playlist and also a community post in addition to the 5 videos, one of which you straight up said that you don't care about Lexit sending porn to minors and that you will continue making videos on her webtoon. That is 7 pieces of evidence of you platforming Lexit. Downplaying constantly in your apology is not a sincere apology. You're doing this to a person who you know is suicidal because of you. Do you not feel sympathy? Or are you too busy victimizing yourself to recognize your own actions that continue to harm Willer? Chalupa slandered Willer on 3 separate occasions. The first time was in his BL Jeff the Killer webtoon video, the second time was in a stream, and the third time is in this response video when he continued to imply SA in Willer's comic, which led to even more harassment. And now I have to make this disclaimer in the case that Willer is dead. He's been missing since Chalupa uploaded his response after leaving a suicide note to his sister. No one can reach him online. We don't know if physically, but we're trying to send a physical letter to South Korea to check. The Willer that we know is unreachable, but I don't know if his co-creators are going to be active on the public Willer Gray accounts, so don't be alarmed if there's activity there. I'm only saying this because I was requested to in the case that Willer did die, so people don't get confused if the comic ever continues in the future. I don't want anyone to think that he's gone because it's too early to assume so, especially since he has disappeared for days before when he left a similar message to me after he was accused of drawing non-consensual sex of minors and incest by Chalupa fans, which was obviously not true. They had no evidence. They were just doing what Chalupa does, slander, because they're Chalupa fans. But my friend might be dead because you didn't bother looking up the definition of SA and consent before harassing him. So you're all disgusting. Don't think you're any better than the person lying to frame someone because you chose to believe him and then spread those lies further, knowing that the person you're slandering is suicidal. Every single one of you has been documented. Do not unsubscribe from Chalupa. Everyone outside of this godforsaken niche should know who to avoid on the internet. I don't think you understand the significance of your actions, so let me give you a reality check. Do you know what the public opinion will be if Willer is really gone? That you killed him because he's gay? There are plenty of clips suggesting that you and your friends are homophobic, like the time your friend was so happy to voice homophobic background characters and said a slur for gay men that wasn't in the comic, and you laughed your head off. You have only framed BL webtoons and platformed an actual problematic Jeff the Killer webtoon that happens to be straight. You're also conservative, and conservatives have a reputation of being homophobic. What makes it even worse is that you didn't even address the potential homophobia in your response video, so now a lot of people think that you really are homophobic. You presented yourself as an offensive bigot and then victimized yourself, blaming me for the backlash you received for your own actions. You cannot claim that I vilified you when you do not even address your own actions that vilified you in the first place. If you believe that your actions are the ones of a villain, then you are the one vilifying yourself. I told Willer that people will do this, that I don't want to show him reflecting on his behavior because he didn't do anything wrong, and even though Willer was gaslit by thousands of people claiming he drew SA, I knew that people would use his mental health to claim that it's still SA. At this point in time though, I didn't know that Chalupa himself would be one of these vultures that use a victim's instability as opportunity to step on them harder. I thought his fans were worse than he was, but I guess not, because the fan who accused Willer of drawing incest has apologized. I don't know why Chalupa can't just apologize like they did. Even a small creator can take accountability for their actions, but one with 250,000 subscribers can't. Chalupa is really upset that I assumed his financial situation based on the fact that he didn't work much, which is really strange. I said he didn't need money in the context of him not needing to have taken money from the creator he slandered by not showing the disclaimer and labeling someone as a pedo, which led to his fans' harassment in the form of child hentai. I also said that if Chalupa did need money, he could have just made another video after deleting the current one in order to take accountability, all of which he leaves out. Chalupa separated the financial assumption and the FNAF Webtoons drama, making it seem like the financial assumption was a standalone thing, and talks about the FNAF Webtoons drama way later in his video. Why couldn't he just make another video? Instead, he focuses on how offensive it is that I made a reasonable conclusion based on his own words. But since he wants to make it about me, I'll bring up the fact that he knew why I thought he was pathetic because he has been told how hard I worked on that video to make it as fast as possible. So obviously to me, as someone who wasn't even monetized, him not doing his job means he doesn't need money. Yes, people can be lazy. I was also lazy when I procrastinated on homework a long time ago, which is also pathetic, but YouTube is his job. If he needed money, why wasn't he working? It doesn't make any sense. Why is he so offended? To his fans, me pointing out a fact is a greater issue than him slandering someone and receiving payment to stop their harassment. Why would I point out someone's awful decisions without explaining why he made those decisions? Why did he need the money? Why did he not have money saved up? Because he was procrastinating and not working hard enough, in his own words. So the conclusion was that he couldn't take accountability because he was being lazy despite needing money. If I didn't explain why he needed money, you all wouldn't have pitied him like this. So it's a good thing I explained the reasoning for his actions. Unlike him, I have no problem with him vilifying me for this specific issue. I have no problem with people saying it was disrespectful of me to point out his financial dependency because he would have tried harder if he really had to support his family and not just help them. There's a lot about this drama that's confusing because Chalupa's order of events feel different from what I was told, and I was never told anything about Chalupa insisting that Luro shouldn't pay him. I feel like the victims would remember better because Chalupa admitted to not really remembering what happened, but I agree that the FNAF webtoon creators should release the full context. I'm not going to comment on that drama anymore because Chalupa did apologize, he did refund Luro, and he did delete the FNAF webtoons video. Chalupa frames me again though.
They also insinuated I used whatever influence I have to delete comments and hide it on Reddit.
I had a good laugh from this, so thank you. I needed it after the turmoil you put me through the past several days. Chalupa doesn't show a clip of me supposedly insinuating this because I didn't. No one thought I did, but he's overthinking because he suffers from victim mentality. I said Chalupa was being disrespectful when he made fun of the FNAF webtoon creators long after they were forced to discontinue and delete their webtoons due to that drama. Chalupa defends himself, saying his references were to a small audience or that it was vague, so it wasn't going to spark any new drama. But I don't get why those are defenses because I was pointing out his character. The effects of his actions don't matter to my point. He was still being disrespectful by making fun of these creators years after their conflict was resolved.
You also try and use our edgy humor to paint us a whole bunch of buzzwords like racist, sexist, fatphobic, and so on and so forth.
You're lying again. I never even brought up the word sexist in that whole hour. Displaying your edgy humor and calling it toxic functions on the same logic as you reacting to comics and calling them horrid. I said you sound misogynistic, homophobic, and fatphobic sometimes because you do. I said you fat shame a lot because you do fat shame a lot. I said you say the R slur regularly because you've been saying it for years, which you never address. I don't know why you're defending yourself. Why is it that your edgy humor is not allowed to be criticized? If you can trash on other people's comics, then other people can trash on your jokes. If artists are considered too sensitive for complaining about the way you talked about their comics in your video, then you are too sensitive for complaining about the way I talked about your humor in my video. I'm surprised you took it so personally. You start victimizing yourself as soon as you hear factual information about you. I never even said you were misogynistic, homophobic, or fatphobic, so why are you taking things so seriously? You clearly didn't think the jokes I made all throughout that video were funny, but they were still jokes, so I don't know why you're acting like I took you too seriously. I can say you sound misogynistic when you joke and laugh about women getting physically abused. I can say you sound homophobic when you laugh to a slur for gay men. I can say you sound fatphobic when you fat shame continuously. There was no context to these jokes that made them funny, and if there was, you would have shown them in your response. It's not about edgy humor or how literally someone perceives edgy humor. A KMS joke is edgy humor, but it's not directed at anyone but yourself, so people generally don't have a problem with that. But you make jokes directed at specific groups of people, communities that you're not part of, which is off-putting because there's no context for anyone to believe that it's just humor. A lot of people who make misogynistic or homophobic jokes are actually misogynistic or homophobic, so what sets you apart from them when you provided no reason for anyone to give you the benefit of the doubt? You are someone who thinks that the portrayal of what you believe to be SA in a piece of media means the creator glorifies SA. So what is wrong with someone thinking that you believe the words you say in your own content? All you are saying is that you cannot be criticized while other people can, and your fans are as sensitive as you are.
If you have a problem with me being right-leaning, so be it. I don't think mine or anyone's political beliefs shape one as a person, and I don't think we should vilify one another for having different political beliefs. It simply holds us back from having true conversation.
The audacity of him to bring up politics when I included that at the very end of my video after my conclusion and outro on purpose so that not many people see it. I clearly stated that I am not a political person and that people should not take this seriously. Him being conservative was used as the reason he thinks female is a gender. Him supporting Donald Trump was a fun fact that he wasn't hiding. I never said I had a problem with him being right-leaning, but he implies that I criticized his politics and vilified him.
Am I still a little conservative? Yes, but that doesn't mean I pray to Trump, Epstein, and Israel every night.
Literally no one said this. Who are you talking to? I never even connected his politics to his Epstein jokes for him to be this delusional. I wish you showed why you even thought this, but you don't. They're just personal interpretations after personal interpretations. His claim that I assumed he declared loyalty to Trump because of a meme his friends joked about just came out of nowhere.
You assumed that us making a Donald Trump save us joke was us declaring our loyalty to him.
His friends talking about Trump was evidence of them talking about Trump.
I'm not a Trump supporter anymore. I was when I was a stupid teenager.
You defend yourself saying you were a stupid teenager for supporting Trump, but this was 2 years ago. You weren't a teenager 2 years ago, unless you were held back. Regardless, you were an adult. Whether it was 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, you were an adult. I personally wouldn't download and use a Donald Trump picture randomly in videos if I didn't like Trump. I'm not saying you were lying when you said you're not a Trump supporter anymore. I'm saying there were 4 pieces of evidence I showed when I said you were a Trump supporter, but your fans are saying I accused you of being a Trump supporter based on a meme without watching my video because of the way you framed me. I don't get why the fact that it's a meme has to do with anything, because I don't know why your friends would reenact that meme and find it funny if they're not supporters. I'm surprised Chalupa is this upset about me revealing his politics when most people either didn't watch or didn't care about that part because this wasn't about politics. He makes an excuse for why his friends brought up Trump in the first place, but he doesn't have evidence of that.
We're making fun of him and Trump supporters for thinking of him being sent by God to save people, when he's clearly the furthest thing away from the Lord.
He can pull up his own stream to show the context, but he doesn't because he can't. The real context is that they asked Trump to save them from the webtoon they were reading, a webtoon that they didn't even think was problematic. Chalupa bullshit an entire reason to convince you that he's not a Trump supporter anymore, and I'm not saying that he still is, but the actual context of the stream was that they didn't want to read a Canvas webtoon because that's what they do on streams, complain about reading webtoons that no one is forcing them to read, and if you actually watched my video, you would know that. Chalupa also says I used this screenshot to incriminate him of wanting to deport everyone.
You also use this image to incriminate me of wanting to deport everyone, which is pretty bad. The problem is, this isn't me. My name was always...
It's the funniest thing I've heard in weeks. A zoomed in message of a Discord screenshot? I'm just really confused. I still can't wrap my head around what he actually means. Is he saying that Lupa 2024 is supposed to be him? Because that's not how Discord works. The name should be above the message, but the name is below the message. So why would anyone think that's him? No one said this was him. They would know it's not him because I showed his Discord name multiple times in other screenshots. Why would Chalupa name himself Lupa Chalupa 2024. Is this supposed to be an alt account? Would he change the name of his alt account every year then? So last year his name would have been Lupa 2025? Is his name Lupa 2026 this year? Chalupa implied that Mexicans are taking jobs away in one of his streams, so I had my suspicions to what this user meant by deportation, but I never implied it. I didn't see a single comment about this message because it was a standalone thing that never got addressed. This message was played for 1 second at minute 5:32, and the fun fact politics is at minute 58:19. No one knew he was a Trump supporter during the time of this message, and they would have forgotten about the existence of this message by the time they got to the end of the video. That is if they got to the end of the video, because why would you watch my outro and past my outro if you're not a subscriber? Chalupa pieced together information presented 53 minutes apart just to victimize himself and put his own politics on blast because he's incredibly insecure. I don't know why he gets so defensive over his politics. No one cares if you're conservative. We knew you were conservative the moment you said female is a gender. And we can tell you're conservative because you replaced the word misogynist with the word sexist. No one thought you wanted to deport anyone. You can create self-inserts in your animations if you want to become a victim. Your sensitivity in this response made me laugh more than any of your videos or streams combined. Who knew you could be so funny?
Another point that you made in your video and others is that I and other people shouldn't make videos on webtoons if we don't like them. But this kind of culture isn't anything new. There have been countless channels that specifically make videos on things they don't like.
You specifically target media in which you're not the target audience. You also know that webtoons are mostly indie. You should have shown examples of channels only hating on indie games, for example, or a big YouTube channel that only reacts to and mocks small YouTube channels. Instead, you showed channels criticizing high-budget movies and TV shows. You should know how analogies work if you're making a video like this. When did you react to a webtoon made by a company, and how many times was that? I get that you're used to making shit up, but you are not doing the same thing they're doing, so don't try to say that you are. I know what you're doing. Your whole video consists of lies and strawman fallacies.
You assume that Black Like Jack and I are best friends, when in reality, we've blocked each other.
Why was this even in your response? No one cares. You make a claim without showing proof again because there is none. I never even implied you two were acquaintances in this video. You shame furries and weebs, and Jack is a furry and a weeb. So how could you be best friends? You're just doing this to discredit me, to frame me as someone who lies. Funny how you criticize me for assuming things about you based on evidence when you assume things about me based on nothing. I see you're doing the thing Jack does where he talks to a black screen. Chalupa says I took some of his clips out of context, but the ones I did take out of context, everyone knew they were purposefully taken out of context for comedy. Like, who the hell thought he was being serious when he said,
I may be racist.
And you can clearly tell they're out of context because I show the title of all his videos and streams. There's a reason I record my screen instead of downloading the videos. People know they're out of context because they know I'm playing a different video. No one was talking about these clips as if they were serious. I'll do it again now in regards to him saying his character on streams is not who he really is.
Chalupa, this isn't you. Maybe this always was me. Maybe it always was me and I just never let it out until today.
Chalupa takes these moments so seriously, saying I took clips out of context to make him look bad, which is so ironic coming from the guy who can't handle me criticizing his humor while claiming I took him too seriously. I was making fun of him and my viewers knew that. My editing style contains subtle humor, and this particular example is the implication of, haha, he said this specific thing as a joke once, which is funny because it might not be just a joke. Turns out, him and his fans just don't like my editing style. I would repeat the same thing he said when I criticized his humor, something about, if you don't like me. But I didn't pay attention, so let's move on.
Another video you failed to provide context is this one of us making a joke about boys in a man's world.
I might be a man, but I got a boy's mind.
That's literally Kurt Angle. You're a boy in a man's world, and I love to play with boys. You're a boy in a man's world, and later tonight, I'm gonna get on top of you. You failed to realize, like that clip of us supposedly praying to Trump, that this is a reference to a popular WWE meme video.
No one cares where your jokes are coming from. We know you're not original. You need to show the context of your stream, not the context of the clip you're referencing. referencing. You guys have made disturbing jokes about children in the past, and I don't know why you guys repeated that quote in the context of your stream. After you guys laughed to a woman getting hit. Like I said, Chalupa explained his behavior in his streams, stating that he plays it up for those streams and that he's not actually serious in those streams, but I don't know why he explains himself because no one thought he was screaming at his family at home. The reason I said in real life in reference to the Epstein, Diddy, and Andrew Tate jokes is because he most likely makes those jokes behind the scenes too. Unless his edgy humor is fake for YouTube, it would still be his humor in real life. As for all the screaming, everyone knows he's exaggerating on his streams, but not everyone who streams sounds like they're high. People are allowed to say he's annoying. He thinks people making fun of him is people taking him too seriously because he can't handle any form of negativity directed at him, so he has to cry about it to his fans for them to defend him while calling the person making fun of him sensitive. And then there's parts of his streams that he has no excuse for, like the way he farms money with webtoon request donations while not reading a single episode for hours, and the fact that he visits illegal webtoon sites, which is really off-putting, especially as someone who doesn't even read webtoons in his free time because he doesn't like them. So it just feels like he's using them for money, which is true. That's his job, to react to webtoons negatively for money. To a webtoon creator, what he's doing might even feel gross. People are allowed to criticize Chalupa, but the moment they do, they're taking him too seriously and being too sensitive. Look at how Chalupa was overreacting in this whole response and tell me that's not the embodiment of the word sensitive.
We have to kill Easy Rat. Find Easy Rat's house. Find Easy Rat's house and eliminate! Don't actually do that though. I have to, for legal reasons, I have to say don't do that. I'm exaggerating myself to make my viewers laugh. Do you actually think I want to dox my own viewers? I even said for legal reasons that's a joke in your own video. Don't actually do that though. I have to, for legal reasons, I have to say don't do that. It's wild how you take everything said so literally. You're either oblivious or doing it with the malicious intent to try and make us look much worse.
Do you not know how malicious intent works? It would only be malicious if I left out the part of you saying it's a joke. I put that in there so people would know that it's a joke. You can't be this dumb. The point was that you should not tell your audience to find someone's house and kill them, even as a joke, because you have fans that will believe you and glaze you no matter what you do or say. Someone reached out to me after I made the Blacklight Jack video, claiming that Chalupa made child porn and that he's notorious for framing artists, in which I just told them to report to authorities. The person was clearly exaggerating when they said CP, because what they really meant was the pedo rape joke in that FNAF Webtoons video. I was going to watch the video in question before deciding to make another commentary video, but they ignored me and sent a bunch of evidence for some other stuff too, so look where we're at now. They told me he was pro-ICE and a Donald Trump supporter while being Mexican American. I said I'm not a political person, so my outlook may be different because there was no proof of him being pro-ICE. They told me he was being misogynistic in his Quora post. I said that he doesn't sound misogynistic in his Quora post. They suggested I normalize copyright striking because Chalupa used artists' works illegally. I told them I cannot normalize false copyright strikes because that is not how copyright laws work and Chalupa's videos are fair use. I ended up having to watch Chalupa's streams, and the only reason was to find evidence of Chalupa using a specific slur that this person claims he used but lost the timestamp for. I'm not even going to tell you what it was because we never ended up finding that clip. Although I found clips suggesting something, I didn't find concrete evidence for it, so I decided not to show these clips. I do not believe that Chalupa stated this slur because again, I found no evidence for it. These streams were incredibly painful to watch. I don't know how his fans do it. Someone said Chalupa and his friends faking an accent while voicing a character was being racist. I said them faking accents is not being racist because I noticed them faking a variety of accents. I didn't show this particular clip.
Oh, this is gonna sound really racist. I can't tell if that's an alien or an Indian.
because he specifically asked not to clip it?
Please don't clip that.
He should have said that for everything, then I wouldn't have used any of those clips he complained about. Chalupa mentioned CV being in his Sonichu stream, despite Sonichu being an adult comic made by a person who committed incest upon her mother with dementia, and CV being a minor. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that actually. Legally, she's not guilty because the case was dismissed due to her mental illness. Chalupa doesn't show further context to the Sonichu stream because both of us decided not to show it for the same reason, but I'll explain the context since he wants me to. Chalupa would not take CV off the wheel, and by wheel I mean the spinning wheel, to decide who voices what character. Someone found that to be a problem, saying Chalupa was being dismissive to Cheesy when she told him to take CV off the wheel. I said that Chalupa wasn't being dismissive because he switched CV's role with someone else's. I still think it's weird that Chalupa had a minor in a Sonichu stream in the first place, but I didn't include this clip in my video because Chalupa did take CV off the wheel eventually, even if he had to be told twice by two of his friends. But what was the point of CV being in this stream if he couldn't voice any characters? If they believed that it was wrong for him to voice characters in this comic, why was he in this stream? Chalupa said that I implied he was some kind of pedophile or something just by mentioning that CV was in the Sonichu stream. Cheesy claimed that Chalupa watches anime twice, and instead of correcting her, saying he doesn't watch anime, Chalupa said that he only knows Boku no Pico, an anime that features a sexual relationship between a boy and an adult man. I didn't include this clip in my video because I didn't want people to think that he's a pedophile, especially considering he already makes sexual jokes on children and doesn't care about someone sending porn to minors. So I convinced the person telling me to include it, saying maybe he meant that he knows of it, like he's heard of it before, because I assumed he didn't say what he meant, even though I had no proof of him not watching anime. But Chalupa hates when I assume things about him, so I'll stop giving him the benefit of the doubt. You're weird, Chalupa. That's how you use that word, so I will too. You're weird for implying that you watched pedophilic media. You're weird for making a boner joke on a child character. You're weird for including a minor in a Sonichu stream. You're weird for not caring about someone sending porn to minors. You're weird for making Epstein and Diddy jokes. You're weird for animating a rape and murder joke of a real child and a real pedophile. You're weird for saying that human trafficking is funny as a joke. You're weird for having a problem with something being weird when you're beyond weird yourself. The examples in this section are just the ones I remember off the top of my head. I cut that original video short and people still complained, if you don't like long videos, then don't watch them. Clearly Chalupa wanted a longer video because he complained about me not showing context when I left out the context for his own good, and the reason he doesn't address his usage of the R slur, I know why he uses that word because I watched his streams, but I can't say it because explaining the reasoning would either send hate to his family or to me for sounding disrespectful again. I don't think people realize just how many hours of streams I watched to find this goddamn slur. You're incredibly naive if you think the clips I presented in that hour is all he had to hide. The amount of times I defended him as common courtesy only for him to play victim to his 250,000 subscribers is baffling, and he does this because he cannot accept criticism, so he slanders me without presenting any evidence, and to almost everyone, I'm the one who spread misinformation, the person who showed evidence for every single thing said, not the guy who straight up lied about everything. I gave him the courtesy that he didn't deserve, and in return he revealed himself to be a monster, because how can a human being continue to attack someone even after he's seen the effects of him doing this before? I am so sick and tired of this bitch and everything that happened because of him. The number of people praising this shitty excuse of a slander video disguised as a response and multiple half apologies at the same time is sickening. It is truly disturbing how 250,000 people can support someone so disingenuous and malicious. He used his platform for slander because he knows he has the advantage as a YouTuber 100 times my subscriber count. You know why? Because they slandered people, caused harassment, and now Cheesy is on a power trip. They've both been told the exact same truths about Willer's comic so that Chalupa wouldn't be a bitch and lie about everything again, but they both ignored this information, so that's why she's involved. Since you guys care about context so much, I'll show people the whole context, but even with this context, they will still have no idea why you said that. It just came out of nowhere. And since Chalupa wants me to explain context in excruciating detail all the time, I will explain the context. He was asked if he was going to refund Luro by the middleman, which Chalupa didn't want to do, but then when he changed his mind, he didn't even want to do the work of finding Luro's contact information, so Willer had to do do it for him. The person that Chalupa made suicidal helped him, and Chalupa still uploaded this criminal response, and now we don't know what happened to the guy who was suicidal. So good job. Turns out you were praying for your own downfall. Not that you had anyone to pray to, because what kind of God would be on your side? Rape is not what you guys want rape to be. Misinformation is not what you guys want misinformation to be. You all chose to trust Chalupa. You do not get to be disappointed in me and shame me for everything I haven't done. I appreciate the few people who believed in evidence rather than words alone. There were about 3 of you, so thank you for keeping me sane. And as for others, do not support my channel if you are the type of person to turn on someone based on nothing because you don't know how to think for yourself. I do not want to be associated with people who would willingly contribute to the end of an innocent human's life.